The National News Desk. Covered, nationally connected.
This is the National News Desk, America's News Now. I'm Amira David. We are following breaking news right now. 15 passengers injured, 3 critically, after a Delta plane flipped upside down at Toronto's Pearson International Airport. But here's what we know at this hour. This afternoon, the CRJ operating flight 4819 from Minneapolis crashed while attempting to land. 80 people were reportedly on board that flight. CBS News reporting 1 child and 2 adults were reportedly critically injured. The rest of the injuries are said to be minor or moderate, but all crew and passengers have been accounted for. Videos circulating on social media do show snow on the ground, and winds were very powerful with gusts up to 40 miles per hour, but it's unclear if that was a factor in the crash. Tonight, the death toll has risen to 12, including a mother and child, in the deadly flash flooding that wreaked havoc in Kentucky and other parts of the South. Officials calling this weekend's storms historic as they prepare for a possible snowstorm that could jeopardize relief efforts. Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear says rescues are underway right now.
We moved from flash flooding, which was dangerous, to our riverbanks overflowing. Still a number of areas where we are in search and rescue mode, still rescuing people. We're evacuating an apartment building right now in Martin County, so maybe 100+ people that we have to move to safety.
Beshear says there have been more than 1,000 rescues since storms started on Saturday and a possible record high of more than 300 road closures. This as a snowstorm is expected Tuesday night into Wednesday. 1 storm-related death was also reported in Georgia, but hardest hit were Kentucky and Tennessee, each getting 8 inches of rain, and another 5 inches were tracked in Virginia. We're just outside of Lynchburg. At least 1 life was saved after electric utility workers jumped into action to rescue a man being swept away by floodwaters. The driver in a Jeep tried to make it down a flooded road when within minutes the water rose several feet, flipping his car over. The 3 linemen who were out on a call for a power outage, without hesitation, began to pull him back into safety using a rope.
Listen, buddy, he said, I'm going to get you. Listen, it's going to hurt. I said, you're going to have to hold your breath and trust me and grab a hold of this rope. He couldn't move, couldn't hardly talk or nothing. He was in pain. He was disoriented. Hypothermia was setting in.
That man, who has not been named, is now in the hospital recovering. Nearby in Washington, D.C., the metro area, first responders today still addressing damages from strong 60-mile-per-hour winds. The winds uprooted trees just yesterday that then ripped through homes. In hard-hit Montgomery County, Maryland, one homeowner describes watching it unfold.
I was in my room, and then in another moment, the bathroom, I heard like a bomb, an explosion, and I moved to the bathroom and the tree started falling down. I started screaming and wondering what it was, and then the roof opened up. The tree from the side of the house fell. Thank God I came out okay. Nothing happened to me.
The entire family of 6 who were living there, thankfully, was not hurt. And looking ahead, the National Weather Service warning of life-threatening cold lasting into tomorrow, with temperatures in northeastern Montana predicted to drop as low as 45 degrees below zero, with wind chills below 60. Extreme cold warnings also in effect in North and South Dakota and Minnesota. Meantime, the next cross-country storm is already underway, with snowy weather scattered across the Cascades, Rockies, and into the plains. The system expected to sweep south and east into Wednesday. 6 to 12 inches is forecast across states like Missouri, Oklahoma, Kansas, and Arkansas. And make sure to stay with us as we continue to track the latest on these storms throughout the night. We're going to have coverage for you both on air and online at thenationaldesk.com. The legal drama surrounding President Trump's second term continues. Today, a federal judge ruled The new government-wide email distribution list created by the Office of Personnel and Management is not a privacy and security risk to federal employees. Shortly after January 20th, OPM sent mass emails across all agencies to confirm that an email can be sent and replied to by all government employees. This as we learn that 20 states' attorneys general filed a brief in federal court supporting the administration and the Department of Government Efficiency as operating within the powers of the executive branch under Article 2 of the U.S. Constitution. Last week, a federal judge ordered a temporary pause of accessing government data by DOGE. Meantime, Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency now zeroing in on diversity programs at the Department of Education. National correspondent Kayla Gaskins joining us now with the latest out of Washington.
DOGE's newest target, diversity, equity, and inclusion at the Department of Education, identifying 70 DEI training grants amounting to $373 million. According to DOGE, one such grant trained teachers to engage in self-reflection to confront their own biases and racism. This comes as the Department of Education continues its crackdown on DEI programs and policies in schools. On Friday, the acting assistant secretary sent out a letter reminding institutions any discrimination based on race, color, or national origin is illegal, adding institutions failing to comply with federal civil rights law face potential loss of federal funding. Critics quick to respond.
What does this mean? Are they going to take away funding from historically black colleges? Are they going to take away funding from public schools that have a Latino student union? To me, it indicates just the fanatical obsession that this administration has in terms of going against DEI.
Meanwhile, the Education Department opening up investigations into whether 5 Northern Virginia school districts are in violation of federal law by allowing transgender students to use bathrooms and locker rooms matching their gender identity. And as that investigation unfolds, Virginia Democratic Senator Mark Warner conceding the party has some soul searching to do.
I think the majority of the party realizes that the ideological purity of some of the groups is a recipe for disaster, and that candidly the attack on over-the-top wokeism was a valid attack.
And a recently published Gallup poll finding 45% of Democrats and Democratic-leaning independents want their party to become more moderate.
And Kayla, President Trump has proposed getting rid of the Education Department altogether. So what's the latest on that front?
Well, Linda McMahon, the nominee for Education Secretary, has yet to be officially installed in the post, but should she get confirmed, Trump has said she wants her to put herself out of a job. McMahon did tell Congress, though, there are no plans currently to shut down the department or to cut spending that Congress has already approved, but she says she instead plans to move programs around to other departments, and it's more of a downsizing and restructuring than a complete dismantling. Amira.
Okay, more to come on this, that's for sure. Kayla Gaskins reporting for us from Washington, D.C. Thank you so much. Developing now, police and the fire crews in Tacoma, Washington, investigating what led to the fire that left 1 dead and at least 1 in the hospital last night at a gun range. The fire department says this tragedy could have been a lot worse because of where the fire broke out.
There's ammunition in the building. So of course, when our crews immediately went in to try to locate any victims, any possible victims, there was ammunition going off in the fire. So add to that makes an extra challenge when we're trying to rescue people.
Right now, we don't know if the victims were harmed in the blaze or if they were struck by ammunition set off inside the fire. We also don't know if the deceased was an employee or a customer. Pope Francis is remaining in the hospital as he deals with what's been called a complex clinical picture for his treatment of bronchitis. The Vatican says he is in stable condition, but doctors say he needs, quote, absolute rest. The Pope is 88 years old and has had a number of hospital visits in recent years. And a grim milestone today, marking the 500th day since Hamas attacked Israel on the 7th of October in 2023, jumpstarting a more than 15-month-long war. Around 1,200 people were killed in Israel that day, and about 250 were taken captive. That followed by more bloodshed in Gaza after Israel's military campaign began. The health ministry there estimating more than 48,000 people have been killed. That figure does not distinguish between fighters and civilians, but at least half of those killed are reportedly women and children. We are learning today 4 bodies held captive by Hamas in Gaza will be handed over to the IDF on Friday, and 3 more hostages will be released on Saturday. Israel says there are currently at least 8 hostages remaining alive in captivity. Yesterday, President Trump reiterated his support for Israel to get the rest of the hostages home.
I told Bibi, you do whatever you want, because, my statement was they got to come back now. But that'll be up to Israel what the next step is, in consultation with me.
And coming up, Secretary of State Marco Rubio in Saudi Arabia for peace talks to end the Russia-Ukraine war, why one major party to the discussions won't be in attendance. Then a winter of heavy snow continues, why one state could see new hazards emerging if spring doesn't come soon. And later, a gathering place for online criminals is well known by officials what they're doing about the dark web. Secretary of State Marco Rubio is now in Saudi Arabia for talks between the U.S. and Russia beginning tomorrow in an effort to end the war in Ukraine. Absent from those talks, though, is a representative of Ukraine. Today, European leaders holding an emergency summit in Paris to discuss continental security. National correspondent Atral Nashar has more on the pressure they're under to ramp up their defenses.
Ahead of the 3rd anniversary of Russia's invasion of Ukraine, President Trump exerting pressure on European allies.
He believes that our European friends must play a bigger role in the future of this continent.
A bigger role means European NATO members increasing their defense spending. The alliance's new Secretary General agrees.
The European part of NATO has to spend more.
From the Munich Security Conference, Mark Rutte points to the rising threat of an emboldened Russia and China, making the case for increasing NATO's guideline level of defense spending from its current 2% of a member nation's GDP to at least 3%.
We not only have to do this because it is fair towards the Americans, but also because we have to make sure that we can protect ourselves collectively.
In terms of GDP, the United States is not NATO's top spender, or even second most. Poland is number 1 by far, spending more than 4% of its GDP, followed by Estonia, then the United States, Latvia, and Greece in the top 5. Germany, Europe's biggest economy, agrees more funding is necessary. UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer points out they've already committed £3 billion per year to Ukraine until at least 2030, and wrote in the Telegraph the UK is ready and willing to contribute to security guarantees to Ukraine by putting our own troops on the ground if necessary. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky making an additional argument for Europe to step things up. He says Ukraine has intelligence Russian President Vladimir Putin is preparing soldiers within Belarus, suggesting a future attack on a NATO country.
There is a high risk that he can do the same. Maybe not. God bless not.
No, I don't agree. I don't agree. Not even a little bit.
A fundamental disagreement with Ukraine as Trump is poised to play a major role in deciding its future, for the time being excluding the Europeans he demands be more involved. In Washington, I'm Atrel Nashar for the National News Desk, America's News Now.
Asha, thank you. Another American has been released from Russian detention and brought home to the United States. Ohio resident Caleb Byers on his way home tonight after being detained in Moscow over Super Bowl weekend. Russians customs allegedly found CBD or cannabis gummies on him at the airport. He was accused of trying to smuggle a significant amount of drugs into the country and was facing 7 years in prison. His family said he was on a trip to obtain papers to marry his Russian fiancée. The attorney for the family of Mark Fogel, who was just released from a Russian prison, shared with us this guidance about traveling to Russia.
This is the country with the highest risk of, not highest, but high risk of arbitrary detentions involving American nationals. And the advisory is to not go.
A sad update for you out of Munich, Germany. A 37-year-old mother and her 2-year-old daughter have succumbed to their injuries and have died after being struck last week by the Afghan asylum seeker who drove his car right through a crowd of people. At least 37 other people, including children, were injured last Thursday. German prosecutors say the suspect has admitted to intentionally hitting civilians, but says he was acting alone and not as a part of a larger terrorist group. We have reporters all across the country in your neighborhoods covering the issues that matter most to you, from calls for changes when it comes to utility access in Virginia to an ongoing rock salt shortage in New York. We're taking the pulse of America, but we begin in Florida with law enforcement discovering the dark side of artificial intelligence.
In a world where technology is constantly evolving, and in just one click, artificial intelligence can produce just about anything, officials are discovering the dark side of AI.
This is a complex issue that we're now dealing with. We never dreamed that we would be using AI or seeing AI used in this capacity.
Earlier this week, Martin County Sheriff's officials arrested 29-year-old Leonel Alvarado Lozano for possessing and creating multiple images of AI-generated child pornography.
His perversion is real. His thought process is real. And that individual, given the opportunity, will absolutely offend and commit an act on a child if they have the opportunity.
Child advocate Callahan Wall says data shows these types of crimes are on the rise.
While this is an emerging technology, in 2023 we saw over 5,000 reports to our cyber tip line that used AI to create child sexual abuse material. Now that was in 2023. We're still going over our 2024 numbers.
He's encouraging parents to get ahead of the game by talking to their children about online safety.
There's a monster in your mailbox every month, and it's an APCO bill.
From rising electric bills to thousands of customers left in the dark for days at a time following storms, Republican state senators Bill Stanley, Travis Hackworth, and Todd Pillion say enough is enough when it comes to Appalachian Power.
They don't care, in my opinion, and I think it shows. We only see them caring when they send you the bill.
They say you should have a choice in who provides your power.
What is our choices? What can we do? How do we break this?
So they sent a letter to the State Corporation Commission. The SCC has regulatory authority over utilities, including Appalachian.
And we're going to make sure not only do we get answers, but we're going to get something done about this.
It's no secret that rock salt is a hot commodity lately.
I had checked at Home Depot, Tractor Supply, Honeoye Falls, Ace Hardware, and they're all out.
Here in Honeoye Falls, the story is no different.
This is a main thoroughfare, so I try very hard to keep it safe for the people who are walking their pets and going to the restaurants here in downtown.
Todd Clue works at the restaurant next door. He says he and his team are even resorting to using table salt between shovelings.
With our deliveries and our stairs, we use kosher salt. I mean, in a pinch, just because you can't have people going up and down stairs with kegs and stuff with no salt. So.
With high demand and salt in short supply, municipalities often have the first priority to keep the roads clean.
So it really is just a matter of timing, and you got to be a little bit strategic with what you're doing.
And coming up, combating the dark web, what officials are doing about the known threats lurking deep online. The dark web. It is a marketplace of anonymous websites filled with illegal activity, from the sale of identity theft tools to illegal drugs to weapons and far worse. Despite efforts by law enforcement to take down bad actors who lurk there, many continue to thrive. Spotlight on America national investigative correspondent Angie Moreski takes a closer look at why it's so hard to stop them.
Take us onto the dark web.
Getting on the dark web is not something most of us do.
The main sites have mostly drugs, fraud, and digital.
Jacob Lott, an internet security expert and white hat hacker who helps businesses fight cybercrime, guided Spotlight through the complicated process.
You have to use a VPN.
First, using a virtual private network to encrypt your internet location.
Do the Tor browser install.
Then downloading a special browser called the Onion Router, or Tor, which blocks the tracking of your movements.
Are you in?
Yep.
Once you're in,
what do you see?
Cocaine, weed, Xanax.
You find many online marketplaces for illegal goods and services.
Stolen credit cards, accounts, passwords, emails, any kind of number of drugs that you can think of, firearms, and other hacking services.
The sale of drugs, weapons, and tools for fraud is rampant, but also much worse.
There's sex trafficking. There's, they're selling a lot of child porn. They're selling things that people are going to put a value on to pay to see or experience.
Incredibly disturbing things Spotlight documented included ads for the sale of human organs, murder for hire, even tickets to watch torture, many images too graphic to show.
It's a group effort to fight the dark web.
It is, and not just domestically, internationally.
The Secret Service is among the multiple government agencies that fight illegal activity on the dark web.
From credit card fraud to sextortion to child exploitation material.
Secret Service Supervisory Criminal Investigator Ken Henderson told Spotlight their agency's role is to investigate financial crimes on the dark web, often going undercover.
Go where the criminals are, see what they're talking about.
So basically, you guys are trying to infiltrate their networks.
Correct, yeah.
Last fall, the Secret Service helped take down a $1 billion Russian money laundering operation where 3 illicit cryptocurrency exchanges were seized. Visitors to those sites are now greeted with this message from law enforcement saying the domain was seized.
The challenge is figuring out who that person is sitting behind the keyboard. Could be somebody down the street, or it could be somebody in Siberia.
While there are successes, investigations can take years.
Is it a matter of these criminals making a mistake? Someone always makes a mistake.
Yeah, and it's sometimes not when they're doing the crime, but when they're just online doing their own personal thing. Sometimes they mix up accounts.
FBI search warrant!
The FBI is another key agency policing illegal activity on the dark web. This video is from a takedown in 2019.
I got some pills over here.
It targeted opioid sales on the dark net and led to 5 arrests in California.
How do you finally get the bad guy?
We've had a lot of success in the past. People taking vacations. They want to use these hard-earned dollars of theirs that they got committing financial crimes, and they want to go lounge on a beach somewhere. Well, we're waiting for them.
The FBI is the primary agency responsible for policing the dark web, especially for those horrific crimes like child sex trafficking. We have requested an interview with them to learn more about their efforts. They told Spotlight they are considering our request. We'll stay on it and report back with any updates. For Spotlight on America, I'm Angie Moreski.
Angie, thank you. Now, if you've ever been a victim of a financial scam, the Secret Service is urging you to report it because you might hold the key to help them follow the trail to the culprit. We'll have links for you on how and where to report it in this story at spotlightinvestigates.com. And coming up, a venomous snake native to Ecuador was found in the United States, and just where it popped up may shock you. More when we come back. This story is bananas and was certainly a first for the New Hampshire Fish and Game Law Enforcement Division after they responded to a local grocery store where an employee had called in about a surprise stowaway. You're looking at it. A snake found hidden inside a box of bananas. The snake was a 2-foot-long ornate cat-eye, a mildly venomous species that is native to Ecuador. The New Hampshire Fish and Game Department wrote on Facebook that its conservation officers safely recovered the snake and have since found him a new home with rainforest reptile shows. So that's exciting for him, but imagine seeing that while you're doing your grocery store shopping. Yikes. That does it for this edition of the National News Desk. We do invite you to join us again this evening for more coverage on America's top stories. I'm Amira David. Thank you so much for watching.